I'm joined by Hannah Georgas, who is performing at the Saw Gallery next Wednesday. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Very good. So the last time we chatted was about 2 years ago to the day, and you were performing in Brockville as part of the Festival of Small Halls. And
Hmm.
it was one of the only shows I saw during the first 2 years of the pandemic. So, concerts were rare. And I think that made things obviously particularly hard for artists. And I'm wondering what got you through that period of no in-person shows.
Wow. I think the fact that I was working on a record got me through it. That was really nice to be like creative. It didn't happen like creativity didn't kind of hit me at first. It took a lot of time, but I got going and I'm this record that my latest record is what came from it, and that all was written during that time. So that was important. I also I moved out of the city. I was living in Toronto for many years, and I think just for me personally, it was nice to kind of move to the country and reflect and I don't know. I went on some nice walks and those types of things, and I was just kind of needing that even before the pandemic hit. So uh, that's those types of things kind of really helped me out.
You just mentioned sort of waiting for that creativity to hit. And, I have to think a lot of what musicians write about is based on experience. And during a pandemic where you're kind of stuck at home, it kind of limits your experiences with other people in the world. So was that a barrier to being able to write?
Mm, not so much. I feel like I collect a lot of data over the years, I guess. And I think maybe I needed that time anyways when I look back. Yeah, I had a lot. I think what started, I remember off like when things weren't so creative, I guess what I was doing was I started to like wake up every day and start just like writing in a journal. And that's basically kind of like how things started to take off from there. But writing and all the music that came from the album was all based on like notes that I wrote down, and I found the songs and through that. But yeah, I think no, I felt okay to be alone, and I think um, I do my best work when I'm kind of when it comes to writing stuff, writing my own material, like being alone and having time on my for myself to reflect is like the way I can get the best stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think that's why so many artists they retreat to a cabin in the woods to write an album, right?
Yeah,
So
I've
they're
done
you're
that.
alone with your thoughts for better or for worse. Yeah.
Hmm.
So Halloween was the other day, and it got me wondering, would you rather be interviewed in a haunted house or in a gated graveyard?
Oh my God. That is a very difficult question because both of those options terrify me. I'm like the scared as I get so scared from the smallest things at the best of time and at the best of times. So
But one
what
of
would I
them's
pick?
happened to you.
Actually, oh yes, that's true.
One of them has happened to you. It's a
That's
leading
true.
question. I know it's a
Yeah. Okay,
trick of the trade.
I'm gonna pick a graveyard because also I lived across the street from a graveyard. Oh, growing up, my childhood home, I lived across the street from a graveyard, and then a couple of years ago, I spent that year I moved to the country. I lived right from a graveyard, and it was the most beautiful graveyard I've ever seen in my entire life. There's trails all through it, and just tons of trees, so you just really feel like each season. And I'd walk through there every single day. So what am I talking about? I can handle a graveyard.
That's right. So, but you did do an interview in a graveyard,
Yes.
and it kind of ended in a funny way. Maybe you can share
Yes.
that.
Yes. I did an interview in the city back in, I guess it was in September, and we were just trying to find a spot to sit and chat in a quiet spot, and we walked into this another beautiful graveyard together, and we had a really nice chat, and it started to get dark out, and so we went to find our way out, and all of the gates were locked to this place, this graveyard. So we tried to find our way out. We couldn't get out. There was no way to get out. It was only like it must have been like 6 o'clock or something, and they locked it up super early, and so we had to climb a fence to get out of there. And some lovely person on the street like saw us struggling, and he helped me over the other side. And then the lovely lady that I was interviewing me, she fell.
Oh,
I felt so bad. It was just like, it was a funny story at the end of the day, but we were like, what is happening?
yeah. Well, she told me, and she could laugh
Oh,
about it, so it was good. So,
that's awesome.
but it seems perfect for,
She's so cute.
Halloween season. So,
Totally.
um, sorry, I'm going to jump around again here, but
Hmm.
Flava Flav from Public Enemy, he just
Hmm.
sang the national anthem at a basketball game the other day.
Okay.
It went viral because it wasn't very good. But he said it was a bucket list item for him. So
That's
what's
awesome.
still on your musical bucket list?
Ooh. Um, Surprisingly not singing the anthem. It's not on there. But I'm trying to think. It's hard being asked on the spot because there's lots of cool things that I'd love to do. I guess like for me, um, collaborating with artists that I look up to, I'm trying to think of somebody in particular, but like getting to do something with like Annie Lennox or like Sade, or being able to
Mm,
share the stage or something with those kinds of artists would be like epic for me. And um, I don't know. I've always wanted to be on Jimmy Fallon. I was on Jimmy Fallon with Kathleen Edwards for her, but it would be nice just to have a little spot on his late
oh
night show
yeah.
because he's super nice too, and his show's awesome.
Oh, that's got to happen. Okay,
It's gotta
better make that
happen.
happen. Yeah. Yeah. So your 2020 album, All That Emotion, was produced by Aaron Dessner from the band The National. How did you come to work with him?
Um, he was on my bucket list to of someone I would love to work with, and I just reached out to him via email. I had someone in my camp that oh, I'm trying to think. Oh, I know his management team who they're now managing me. But it was just
Nice.
like I was able to make the connection to get to him and send him music, and we struck up a conversation over email, and he's just asked me to start sending him demos, and that's basically how it began. And he got excited about songs that I was sharing music with him back in like 2016, but his schedule was so busy that we didn't get the opportunity to work together until 2018. So yeah, that's basically how it came about.
And it's interesting because, years before that, in 2008, I believe, you released a song called The National, where you sing about maybe running into an ex at a concert by The
Mhm.
National. So, what did Aaron say when you told him that story?
I never told him that story.
How could you
I
not tell him that? That's
I
such a
don't
great story.
know. I should tell him. I guess if I'm thinking about it, maybe there wasn't like I didn't feel, I don't know, maybe I felt like a little sheepish or awkward or something, which is silly, but I don't know if he knows. He must know, but we never talked about it.
I think you should. I think you should
I
tell him you got
should.
locked in a graveyard and that
Yeah.
you wrote that song. So, yeah.
Yeah. I
Um,
sorry, you go for it.
no, go ahead.
I first saw the National play in something like 2003 at a very tiny, well, it's not tiny, but tiny for them, and it was like a small club in Gastown in Vancouver, and the venue doesn't even exist anymore. And they were actually opening for a band called Clap Your Hands and Say Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But that was like my first experience of like seeing them live, and I remember like just being stopped in my tracks and being such a fan after that. And so yeah, it's like, and a funny story is that my manager was at that show too, and so it's just like we're all standing in this room, and me being in that room, not knowing like what would happen years and years later is very,
Yeah.
very cool to think about.
That was meant to be, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. Um, so speaking of having him as a producer, you've now co-produced your new album called I'd Be Lying If I Said I Didn't Care.
Mhm.
And I've noticed this with other artists after they have a few albums under their belts. So for you, is it a case of having more experience with the studio process, or is it more to do with a creative exploration?
It's both for sure. I think I wouldn't have been able to do something like this without the experience that I had when I first started making records and recording music. I just kind of thought, oh, I have to find a producer if I want to record music. I never really kind of that was just somehow the thought that I had in my mind. But over the years working with people, it really like I've learned so much. I've made such great relationships with people, and I've been able to collaborate with, yeah, lots of. I think music is about collaborating with people, but I really over the years have just been like kind of thinking about like, wow, what would it be like if I tried to do this? I've always like really, I don't know. I've really kind of I've just always thought about it and really wanted the opportunity to do that. And I really wanted to just like pay attention to that voice in my head that kept asking that question, and giving myself the opportunity to just really listen to my own voice and like do whatever I thought would like be right for this record, and
Yeah.
make decisions, all of the decisions coming from me. So yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to do it.
That idea of showing your voice, I think, is interesting because from what I hear, artists will bring, their music into the studio, and the producer and it can end up recommending all sorts of changes.
Mhm.
Like I interviewed Dan Mangan recently, and he was talking about how radical the changes were once they did the back and forth. So when you went in where you were then in charge, did it stay truer to the demos and how you wrote it? Or once you were in that environment, did you start tinkering and really play with the songs?
It stayed pretty true to the demos. I all of the songs are like they are the demos, but just I kept building and building on top of that foundation, and um, basically like would a lot of it was done remotely. I would send stuff to different musicians and get it back, and my home kind of became the hub to like collect all of the data and start and do the editing from there. And then and then it was a lot of back and forth trips to the city in different uh, studios doing work, and then coming back, bringing all that back home and working on it again. But that's kind of it all kind of stemmed from these original demos.
There's a song on the new album called This Too Shall Pass. And that's a phrase I heard a lot as a kid. So was that a frequent family expression for you too, or did it come from somewhere else?
Ooh, I have no idea where it came from. I it must it could be family related, but I honestly can't tell you. I think it might just be something I picked up from everybody, everybody around me. And just a phrase that I kind of it tends to like kind of circle around in my head from time to time, just to kind of set my mind at ease, I guess.
Yeah, it's one that was always for me. That and in
Yeah.
50 years, it won't matter. It was a way of dealing if you're
Ah,
stressed about something. And I remember those things to this day. So that one sort of stuck with me. And it rolls
yeah.
off the tongue nicely as a chorus. So
Oh my gosh. Well, definitely I don't say 50 years. I say like a year from now, is this even gonna matter? This like situation that you're in, who cares?
yeah,
That's a really big one for me too.
yeah.
Mm.
So CKCU, our station, is a campus community radio station, and we're in the middle of our annual funding drive. So as a musician who has gone from open mics to touring the world, what role has campus community radio played in your career, and why do you think it's important?
Oh my gosh, it's helped me out immensely. I mean, um, when um, I was living in Vancouver, and like you said, just starting with the open mics, and then like somehow figuring out a way to record music and finding people that were like-minded to work on music, and then like getting my music out there, and CBC Music picked up uh, a song off an EP that I had, and then I got a lot of like local support from radio stations and um, in Vancouver and in Alberta, and and it's happened, and I've gotten support in Ontario and all over Canada, and that's just helped me out so much. It's helped get the ball rolling, and it's helped me kind of sustain what I've been up, what I can do as a musician, and get the word out there. So I am a huge supporter of community radio, and um, super grateful that it exists.
I love it. Now, I also love hearing about new artists. So I was wondering if there are any bands that you're loving right now that you think more people should know about.
Well, my brain automatically goes to this artist named Adalia. She has an album that I listen to so much. Um, I think it's now come out a couple of years ago. But she's incredible, and I really love this artist named Fen Lily. She has a record out called Big Picture that's so good. It's just very soothing, and great songwriting, and just like both of them, Adalia and Fen Lily, their records from front to back are just like really, really great. And it's not often that I can like gravitate or grasp onto an entire album these days for some reason. I think maybe just because there's so much, and uh yeah, it takes a while for me to sink into things sometimes. So, but those two artists are really great.
Okay. Yeah, I've played Ada Leah a lot on the show. What was the other artist's name again?
Fen Lily,
And Lily. Okay.
Fenlilly.
Okay. Something to look forward to. So,
Yeah.
but your new album is called I'd Be Lying If I Said I Didn't Care. It's beautiful. And
Thank
you're
you.
performing in Ottawa next Wednesday. And who are you performing with? What's
I am performing with Rachel Bobbitt.
Oh, nice. Perfect. Okay. And it's going to be an intimate show too at the Saw Gallery. They've renovated it. It's
Oh,
nice. It
that's
sounds great in there. So
awesome.
it's
Oh
where I went
man.
as a teenager to see all like the punk and the ska shows and stuff. And
Okay.
it's nicer, much nicer now.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's so
Yeah.
awesome.
Sounds really
I'm
good. So
excited.
yeah. So thank you so much for taking some time to chat. I really appreciate it and have a great show and tour.
It's my pleasure. It's nice to see you again on
You,
Zoom.
that's right. You too.
Sweet.